This is Business Incorporated on Channels Television, and we're glad to have you. I am Bisi Adebayo. Coming up today, Nigeria's Securities and Exchange Commission prepares for a record bond issuance from companies in 2018. And scandal hit South African unit of KPMG welcomes review of its turnaround strategy. Plus, Zambia expects low maize production for the 2017-2018 crop season due to dry spells. Well, let's get started with the markets. And here on the African continent, the markets are largely in the red at intraday. The Nigerian All-Share Index is down 0.29% at midday. The GSA Index is up 0.4%. The Egyptian index was down 0.23% at midday Nigerian time, and Kenya lost over 0.5% on Friday. And the main Gulf markets edged into negative territory on Monday as uncertainty about Iranian nuclear deal and Sino-US trade tensions weighed on investor sentiment. The Abu Dhabi index was down 0.4%, and one of the weights on the index was Alder Properties, down 0.5%. In Dubai, the index was down 0.32%, hurt by a 1.5% dip in index bellwether Emir Properties, which was down 1.5% in early trade. Well, the Qatari index was up 0.1% at midday Nigerian time, as Industries Qatar, the Middle East's second biggest petrochemicals company and holding the largest weighting on the Qatar index, was up 0.7%. In Saudi Arabia, the index was down 0.2% in early trading. And the European markets hovered around the flat line on Monday as investors monitor major headlines coming out of the market. Well, let's talk to Daniel Koop, who's at the Frankfurt Stock Exchange, for more details on today's activities. It's good to see you again, Daniel. Trust you enjoyed your vacation.
Yeah, it's a beautiful vacation. I just returned 2 days ago, now back at a very busy stock market. I hope you are doing just as fine as well.
Very well, Daniel. Welcome back. Now, how are investors reacting to the news of Nestle, which is set to pay Starbucks more than $7 billion to form a global coffee alliance?
Yeah, what a deal. And I can tell you that investors were taking this news actually very positive. When you take a look at the share price of Nestle that is being traded at the stock exchange in Zurich at the SMI, their shares of Nestle went up to 1% plus. So yes, they are thinking that this is a very good deal, that more synergies will be able to be used. And of course, also cost cutting is always an issue. So investors are taking all of this very seriously. We have to remember that the coffee industry, from the investors' perspective, is an industry that is growing and growing every year. I was looking at some very interesting figures actually. Just in 2017, so last year, the average German person was buying 4.2 kilos of coffee. So that's a big amount of coffee. Of course, investors are also telling me that Nestle will most likely benefit a lot, because with this they will have even an easier access to the North American coffee market. The United States and Canada are extremely important for the entire coffee industry. So how is all of this going to work in the future? First, of course, the deal has to be approved by cartel authorities. If everything goes well, this deal will be done most likely by the end of 2018. So when you walk into a Starbucks coffee shop in the future, everything that is being sold inside of the Starbucks coffee shop, like coffee beans, for example, or mugs, all of this still will be handled by Starbucks. But everything outside of a coffee shop, for example, when you go to a supermarket and you want to buy a Starbucks coffee, all of this will be now handled and promoted by Nestle. The CEO of Starbucks calling all of this a historic agreement. And we have to remember that Starbucks was actually facing some very tough times last year, and they even announced that they would be closing some or even many of their local coffee shops. So this again is really showing how important the industry, how important it is for the industry, you know, all those products now being sold in supermarkets and also online. So he's calling all of this as a historic agreement.
Now, let's talk about the strike at Air France KLM. What do the employees want, and how is this affecting the share price?
Yeah, I have to say I was lucky. I was not traveling on Air France during my vacation, so I was not affected. But yes, travelers all around Europe certainly will need some very strong nerves in these days, not just the ones traveling on Air France. Given the fact that also the people of the French air traffic control are on strike, air travel is affected in big parts of Europe, causing delays and also cancellations. Well, they want more money, and shares in Air France tumbled more than 13% on the Paris Stock Exchange following the departure of the troubled Air France CEO. He announced his resignation Friday night after staff rejected a new pay deal. This followed a wave of strikes that have cost the carrier 300 million euros as it aims to cut costs to competitive rivals. We have to remember that the entire airline industry is on a big pressure because of low-cost carriers and also because of competition also from Gulf carriers. The French economy minister said yesterday that the airline's survival was at stake and that the government would not stop in to rescue it. He said that Air France will disappear from the global market if it does not make the necessary efforts to be competitive. So, of course, those are very strong words. The Air France crisis is just one of many challenges the government is currently dealing with. 1 year ago, that Emmanuel Macron was appointed as the French president. The opinions are now very much divided whether his sweeping reforms are good for the country or if they are not. A new strike now today on Monday over wage demands meanwhile prompted the cancellation of about 15% of all worldwide Air France flights. The number, though, of the striking staffers appears to be slightly declining, but we have to remember this is now day 14 of this walkout. So lots of very strong nerves will be needed in the coming days.